Hello and welcome to Stateside on Politics Social. I'm Graham Hughes and I'm joined tonight by Brenna Duncan all the way in California. How you doing? How you doing, Brenna?
Doing okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, we just started on our cold weather.
You have cold weather in
Over
California?
yeah,
No,
it's
you
like it's
don't.
like three
No, you...
degrees less than
Yeah, I
in
was going to
summer.
say, it's literally 3 degrees here, so,
There
Uh,
you well,
you,
that's
you
because you
know,
guys don't have sunshine there. So
and 3 degrees Fahrenheit, I mean, that's nothing. That's like 1 degree centigrade, isn't it?
ooh,
Celsius.
cold.
Anyway, so yeah, we the way I see it, right, is that people are like, oh, you shouldn't say that Trump might win because it makes people sad. And I'm like, do you want to be more sad if people aren't freaking out at the fact that Trump might win, so they stay at home and don't vote? That'll be more sad, I think.
Yeah, I'm I'm I don't like I've been voting since I was 18 years old when we were legally allowed to vote. So it's been some 25 odd years, something like that. So I don't like people who don't vote and complain about what it is, like what the results are. Like you vote and you're allowed to complain that Trump won. That's what I did. I voted and Trump won. I
Yeah.
complained about it. But people who just are like just they just sit around and they're like, "Oh, I don't want to vote because I don't like the candidates." And it's like, "Well, you're not helping. You're only hurting." So, wake up a little bit and go out there and vote. I think it has a lot to do with, especially like my generation, the millennial generation, is one of the largest voting blocks in the United States.
Yeah.
It's comparable only to boomers, and boomers are dying off. So we are the largest voting bloc. We were the first ones to really get our vote sort of undermined, and it had a lot to do with the 2000. We saw the 2000 election go under. We saw a terrorist attack and the reaction that happened.
Yeah.
And so voting from that point on, and then John Kerry went in for and was our presidential candidate for the Democrats in 2004, and he was a dud. And
He was, but I mean, he was up against a guy who had, all of America
the
going, oh
the
my God,
incumbent,
rally round the flag, incumbent, war, we're at war in Afghanistan, we're
or
at
yeah,
war in Iraq, war. You've got to rally round the
it's
flag
really
and the
really it's
president.
really really hard, and they didn't find it. The one thing that the one thing that we look forward to was the Barack Obama in 2008, and that
Yes.
mobilized. And
Yes.
so it was really hard at first for my generation to really want to go out and vote and really care, because our vote, for those who could, our vote didn't count in 2000. It didn't do anything in 2004. And
Yeah.
the only time that it had happened was 2008. And that was Barack Obama's, that was his skill.
Yeah.
He skilled his way because he was so good at it. So, it's hard to be sort of, I'm just, it's hard to teach civic responsibility. I think that's something that's been really hard to teach, really hard to get people into. And it really is a lot about whether or not your vote is important, and not to see like who you're voting for, what the outcome is, and then what happens afterwards. I don't think we're seeing that.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
social media is a big problem because it just sort of ingrains these horrible tropes into your head.
Yes, and lies. I mean, outright lies that we see every single day. We had it over here with Brexit, obviously, but over in the States, the people think that tariffs are a good thing because Trump keeps going on about he's going to put tariffs on China. He's going to put tariffs on, and they're like, oh yeah, that sounds great. Let's screw China. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
it doesn't work like
It's not,
that.
doesn't work.
It's US importers living in the US, importing into the US, who have to pay those tariffs. It's not China, and that money goes to the American government.
And
And
one of those
eighty
and one of
percent
those
of all the stuff coming into Walmart is fucking from China.
yes. And those some of those lies are the inflation lies.
Yes.
And inflation, the president, vice president, even the Congress doesn't have anything to do with inflation. It is corporate greed.
Yeah.
But it's not the Republican view. It's not conducive to say it's the billion and trillionaires who are causing all the problems, because that's who pays them.
They would never. They would
They
never.
wouldn't they wouldn't say we need to tax the rich, because
Yeah.
that's not how they go.
No, that's not how they roll.
So it's so much easier to blame Biden, blame the vice president for some reason. I don't know
Yeah.
how she has anything to do. Even Congress or the Senate, even the Supreme Court has nothing to do with it. It has all to do with corporate greed and
Yeah.
the way that we have let them unchecked over the years, has really damaged our economy. So it's not in their narrative to actually blame the wealthy, to blame the big corporations, to blame, big, chicken farms, and that's why our egg prices are going so up. No, no, no. It's so
No,
much
no.
easier to just blame politicians. I don't know. I like it's so interesting how so close to communism the Republicans actually want to go.
Yes. Yes.
It's
I
so
keep
close.
saying this. They just want everyone the same. They want everyone to think the same and do the same thing. That sounds
They
like
want
communism.
they
I know
want
it's a
they want the
childlike view of
government to
communism, but it's
control
yeah.
the prices of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
communism.
But this is the thing, so many things in the last couple of election cycles have just flipped on their head, mostly because of Trump. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff that they're coming out with on the right was always the preserve of the left. The hard left at that. Isolationism, not getting involved in any other country's affairs, nativism, massive tariffs, protectionism, absolutely against any kind of globalism or working with other countries for a common aim. It was just all, we need to look out for number one. And, if you want to be part of our empire, as long as we get to say what happens, then yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like that. So, and now that's all come on the right side of it.
Yeah.
I always think that there's a story of the little red hen, and that was always taught as like a left wing thing of like there's a little hen, and the hen did all the work. So does anyone want to help me do this work, making this, growing the crops and milling the wheat, and all the other animals were like, no, we're too busy. And then at the end, the little red hen says, oh, who will help me eat the bread that I've made? And they're like, yeah, we'll help you eat the bread. And the little red hen's like, piss off, you didn't help me make it.
Yeah.
And this used to be like a hard left parable. Like this is a communist. Now it's like a hard right parable of like, I don't have to give any taxes to anyone.
But this is mine. I earned this.
So they flipped it from being the fat cats taking everything, the corporate elite taking everything.
The working class, I mean, the conservative movement was about the working class. And what happened was all these wealthy corporations were like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah.
We matter too, to ourselves.
Yeah.
And they have created this idea. It was mostly Ronald Reagan. I mean, the Reaganomics was when it all
said there's
sort
nothing
of
more scary than someone coming to the
started.
door and saying, I am from the government, we're here to help. And I'm like, no, I think that if you're in a crisis situation, if a hurricane had just hit your mountain town and there was no knock on the door from anyone because the government had got rid of FEMA, which is something that Trump wants to do under Project 2025, I think that would be worse. I think that would be the scariest thing. No one's coming.
Those are the lies. Those are the lies that were just told with the two hurricanes that destroyed half our country, was that FEMA wasn't like you were getting, what was it, like $750 and that's it.
Yeah.
And like you had to, and that was not true. That's not true. It was, first off, the Republicans didn't vote to expand FEMA in the wake of having two hurricanes come after us.
They voted even
against
discuss it. They wouldn't even discuss voting on it.
So the Republicans didn't help. So please stop thinking that it's the Republicans that are going to save you. They want you dead.
Yeah.
This is not even, it's not even like, they're not even hiding it, how much their disdain for the rest of the country is.
Yeah.
Because if they knew that these hurricanes were going to come in, They knew that it was going to destroy a significant part of rural America, um, including places where our factories are, where our farming is, where our oil production is.
Yeah.
It was gonna destroy it. They already knew that. They actually talked to the scientists. The scientists said yes. They didn't do anything.
Are you listening to experts again, Brenna? What have we told you
I
about listening to experts?
I try not to, but
The one thing you should never do.
they're just so smart.
I know. They just seem to know things about
They
stuff.
just
What you want to do is listen to someone who doesn't know anything about anything, and jumping at shadows and claim that there's a new world order about to get
the
them specifically.
conspiracy
A conspiracy,
theories.
yes.
Oh my God, the Democrats can control the weather.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I was like, where do
I
I
love this.
sign up?
Yeah, but the Republicans can't. Surely the Republicans should have some kind of like anti-weather machine that stops the Democrat weather machine, or the Republicans are like really stupid, and they can't
Yeah,
suss out how.
what the funny thing is of course, like if the Democrats have the ability to control the weather, it means that they have all the intelligent people that are designing and building these
Yeah.
in order to control the weather. So
Yes.
actually, that side is very smart, and the Republicans are too stupid to counter it. So if that doesn't, this is why conspiracy theories don't work.
Yes, well, they never do. But yeah, the less you know, the more you're likely to fall for this kind of
That's
stuff.
that's why the Republicans are destroying the education system, and that's why the Republicans are keeping you sick.
Yeah.
They don't want it. They don't want you healthy. They don't want you educated. They don't want you
No.
happy.
No, they
you
don't. They're
miserable.
angry, stupid, and miserable, and then you're more likely to vote for them. Social engineering. I mean, this is Darwinism in practice. Like they're going, this cohort of people always vote for us, so we need more of them.
Yeah.
I've got a super chat from Anthony Fisher. It's a
All
great
right.
question for you. So thank you very much, Anthony. That's very kind of you. What does Kamala Harris need to do in these last few weeks?
The criticism about her for the last couple of weeks is that she's just been sort of floaty about her interviews. They've been very nice interviews. They're very Gen Z friendly ones. She may need to go a little harder on those things. She may need to actually answer questions. But
Well,
really,
she's going on Fox News, isn't she?
yes.
On Wednesday.
She
That'll be interesting.
she was on what 60 Minutes.
Mm.
But then she's been doing a lot of sort of she was on Howard Stern or something. I don't
Yeah. She's
know
on Howard
even.
Stern. She was on Be My Daddy or whatever it was called, the podcast.
Right. But I think there are questions that she needs to answer. I'm not on my side because I understand what she's doing, because I actually know a little bit about politics, but she needs to answer some real questions about like how things are going to be different between her and Biden.
Yeah.
And like why is she going to improve upon it? Is she going to be different than him? And that's good.
So more interviews,
More real because this is the point where it's like this is real politics right now. This is when people like I got my ballot.
Yeah.
We're the early voting starting either this week or early next week, and people are going to be making their decision now. Now, for some reason, I have no idea how people are making the decision between a steaming pile of garbage and somebody who can talk.
Well, apparently he is literally steaming. He shot himself in public this week, apparently.
So
according
so
to
one thing about
numerous
something that
sources.
happened recently with Trump is that he was in Coachella. If you know where Coachella is, that's where the Coachella
It's in California, in the desert.
festival. It's in the desert.
Yeah.
Apparently he left a bunch of his supporters
I shouldn't
at
laugh.
a rally stranded
That was nice of it.
because according
So they
to
bust them in, but didn't bust them out.
they bust him in, but the bus drivers didn't get paid, and so they left people.
Oh my God, is that peak Trump? Have we hit peak Trump yet?
I
I
don't
mean,
understand how this is okay.
because they're in the
But they're, you know
cults.
what? But they're,
You know,
but then,
suffering. The more you suffer in a cult, the
yeah,
more that the more more likely
you
the
beg for
leader
help.
is to notice you. The leader is
Yeah.
to gaze upon you with
As
that, you know, whatever
you
it
are my,
is. Yeah.
you are my chosen.
Yes, the
Um,
chosen people who have to
but they're
walk
good,
home through the desert.
they're blaming California. First off, he came to California to bash California. I'm gonna hard truth about California right this very second. It ain't going Republican. Like
Yes,
it's
but he did
not.
this. He did this in 2016. He was doing last minute rallies in states that he couldn't possibly win, and he still won, which I found a bit worrying,
Ugh, it's
to say the least.
the electoral college system is just so broken, and then
Yes,
we're going
but
to
it just
continue
seemed like a
having
weird.
this.
Everyone at the time, I remember in 2016, was going, "Why is he doing these rallies?" And this is when Hillary Clinton was 90%
Yeah.
gonna win on 538, 90%. And I think that there's an overabundance of caution perhaps, but I do want to dive into the polls and what they're telling us and what the trends are
Yes.
in a moment. But first, we had a very generous super chat
I
from
love super
Ivan
chats.
Ambrose. Thank you very much, Ivan. That's very kind of you. What's the situation with tactical voting in favor of the Democrats? So is tactical voting a thing that like happens much in America? Do you get people voting down ballot for Republicans, but then at the top of the ballot they'll vote for Kamala because they hate Trump?
There has been that for quite a long time where which is why we'll have a state that it like maybe Arizona, which
Yeah,
will be a Republican presidential state, but have senators, governor, like they'll have more Democratic um on that side
that's not
on the
going the way we
state
want it
level.
though. We want the presidential votes, Arizona.
Which it is kind of a confusing thing because it doesn't make any sense when you have if you have one party, one side on in the White House and then one side on your state because it doesn't connect. And you can tell because um like the Republican run states
Yeah,
are not doing what Democrat states are doing, um, including Medicare, expanding Medicare and other types of services, using infrastructure money
yeah,
that was given to improve actual infrastructure instead of, their own personal homes. So it's not it's a quite a disconnect. And there has been a push for, the Democratic governors and such to really work on getting down ballot
yeah.
um as a saying, vote blue no matter who, vote blue down or whatnot. Blue, by
Yeah.
the way, is Democrat for us. I know it's different in other places,
I think
but
you're the only country in the world where the left aren't red.
and it has absolutely nothing to do, like it flipped. I think it was in the 70s, 76 or something, and
Well, I heard that it was
it
just
was
because
a
of colour
flip.
TV. They just
It
these
was it
decide on a colour.
they flipped the colors
Yeah,
one year and
and
stuck.
it just stuck.
And it just
So it was a
stuck.
TV
So
network. It wasn't the actual.
yeah, it was like NBC or CBS or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that. And they were doing they were putting the states on about
yeah.
who won, and they just immediately just flipped it. So we've been stuck like that for a while, and I'm fine with it. Red is such a harsh color to
It's
me.
yeah.
I like
There's lots of things that are on the wrong side in America, like they drive on the wrong side of the road. If you're ever coming in on a
Mhm,
boat, the lights on the buoys, or what they call the buoys, are
mhm.
flipped in America. So in every other port in the
Yeah.
world, it is red on your left as you go into port. In America, it's green on your left. It's really confusing, and it can lead to grounding on a sandbank if you get it wrong in the dark. Not that that's ever happened to... Anyway, Super Tiny 808 says, in the UK, 50% of the population are of below average intelligence. In America, it's 70%. That's a bit harsh. Super tiny and mathematically impossible. Angry Pig wants to know how close to sea level are you, Brenna? He's concerned about the sea level coming up and
I'm fine.
flooding you.
I am literally the city I live in is called Costa Mesa, which roughly translate to coastal table. I am fine. I'm up. But down by, because I'm pretty close to the beach, there has been a little bit of erosion. So this right here, you see that?
Yeah.
This is Newport Bay. So it goes right in, I think it's on that. That's the ocean back there.
Is that just
so
a
we're
window
pretty
behind
level.
you? I thought that was a green screen.
Yeah, well, it is. It's a picture I took.
It's a window.
Okay, it's a panoramic drone shot I took. But yeah. So I am pretty close to the ocean, and yes, there's a lot of I mean, there are islands that were built when they were digging. So they built these fake islands, and people have houses on them. So there are people who are going to be concerned about, or should be concerned. These also in Newport Beach, and Newport Beach is the one place that Republicans come to because they want money. Yeah. Trump comes to Newport Beach, rallies everybody, screws them off, and then goes to fundraisers. So they should be, but they're not. I'm fine because of where I am.
Oh, that's good. I'm usually all right in Durham. I live on the top of a hill, which is very cold in winter, but at least, But then you think, oh, I'm on top of a hill. I don't have to worry about climate change. And that's what the people of Asheville in North Carolina thought. And they got their town absolutely trommeled by...
But we could at any time. We had a hurricane a couple years ago. I mean, a very, very small, like, tropical storm come through for the first time in decades. Yeah. So it's just a matter of time, especially during El Nino and El Nina years, in which it's so hot that it just like we get rain, we get wind, we get all that stuff.
Well, that's what supercharged this hurricane, wasn't it? The Hurricane Milton was supercharged by the El Nino effect, which heated up the water from between 1 and 3 degrees. And
Helene picked up speed while it was on land, which is very rare. And it was because there was a front that came in and swept it across. That's why, because usually what happens is it goes Gulf and then it goes out to the Atlantic. But what happened was because there was a front, it pushed it in. So that's why it ended up destroying most of the middle of our country. So
great. Oh well, good job. Good job. We can't affect the climate, but we can actually control the weather. Which is a weird way round of doing it, but there you go.
I'm signing up for that program right now because I have places that need both water and not water. So you're welcome, everybody.
So I want to get back onto the polls because that's what the title of the show is about today. Now, looking at the trends, and this isn't looking at one poll and just going, oh, NBC said this, or YouGov said this, or Morning Consult said this. This is looking at the polls in their entirety. 538, I think, does a good job of putting them together. Yeah. You can read about each poll individually. It gives them star reviews to say, and it does tell you if they're biased. So if a Fox News decides to do a poll, it's going to be a bit biased towards Trump. But the trends are, like, I was getting excited when Kamala Harris first came on the scene, when Biden struck out. And the trends were, remarkable. She was pulling ahead of Trump quite remarkably. And it looked like by this time she could be 7 or 8 points ahead. And that hasn't happened. It's just in the last couple of months, it's stalled. Yes. And it's not really gone anywhere. She's unlike Trump, she is in positive territory in favorability. People like her more than they dislike her. It's only about 1% more overall, but net. But Trump is minus 10 or something. People really hate Trump. But yeah, what do you think the factors are in not having that polling move out, move to territory where we can sort of relax? Why is it so narrow, and especially in these swing states like Pennsylvania, where Harris is
I
only 1 point
I
ahead?
I think it's hard to say because, I think within the last maybe 10, 15 years, I've been asked maybe once or twice to do a poll. So I think the the biggest voting block, my people, millennials, Gen Z, they're not going to be answering polls. I think you're going to see a lot more heavy towards the older people. Because we don't answer the phone.
That
And
gives me
usually they
hope,
call on
but
landlines.
why were the polls so out in 2016, and then when they tried to course correct in 2020, they were giving Biden 7 or 8% ahead of Trump in these states, and he only won by a fraction of that. I mean, in Georgia, what did he win by?
I
ten
think
thousand
so.
votes.
I think for
What, less than 1%?
2016, I think there were a lot of people lying about who they were going to vote for because at that point it was like Trump was um a figure that they didn't want to associate with until they knew exactly whether or not he was like he was it was a joke at
Yeah,
first, and then it became more serious and more serious. Um, I think I mean I'm not a pollster. Um, I also want to say that there are different types of polls, and we don't see all the polls. We don't
yeah,
see the internal polling that happens. And so the campaigns know more about that. That's why I think Trump has been doing a lot of the um, blue states is because he's kind of freaking out and he wants to just start bashing blue states so that the
yeah.
other states get a little bit more riled up, or they give him money to because the blue states are the ones that have money. It's
Oh, so that's why he's gone to California. It's not to get votes; it's to get more money.
it's to get
Because
more money, obviously, because
Kamala
he left
spent over
people.
$1 billion now on the campaign. $1 billion, Brenna. $1 billion. Like, so much money.
This is what this and this is the problem with our elections is that they take so long that we're all burnt out by this time. Like we're all
I
done.
think it's the money. I think it's the money that's the problem. $1 billion. Like, what the? But she's raised more money than Trump, and traditionally the side that raises the most in a referendum, the side that spends the most wins. In in an election,
Right.
the side that spends the most wins. So if you've got the
It's
most, you can spend the most. Good old democracy there. Generally, not all the time.
and there's other things that get people to vote. And I think like you can say, oh, we need a good presidential candidate or whatnot, but there are ballot initiatives. Um, one of the years that marijuana legalization for the states, whenever they're on the ballot, the Democrats end up winning or gaining more. So
Yeah.
places like Oklahoma, where I have family, that for one election cycle, they got more Democratic representation
Oh,
because just like you said for like down ballot, it's like you get more people out there. They're voting anyway. They might as well vote for
yeah.
people who also support what they support. Um, there are a few the abortion access.
Come for the weed, stay for the Kamala.
There you go. Stay for the Kamala.
Yoni with a super chat there. Thank you very much, Yoni. That's very kind of you. Lots of paid Republican polls skewing the average. Now, I don't know. I mean, you might know more about this than I do, Brenna, but like, I don't see how it helps the Republicans to make people think that Trump might win, because I think that's going to help the Democrats more than anything, because it'll put the fear of God into a lot of people who
I
might
don't
not
think it has
necessarily vote, and so but
I
now they're
don't
going to
think it
vote
has
because they don't want
anything
their
to do with
reproductive rights
voters.
taken away.
I think anytime, we all know that when Trump sees his name or
Yeah.
hears his name, he gets all excited. I don't think I honestly I don't think those skewed polling is for
He's such a
anybody but
child.
Trump. He is so narcissistic.
I know, but like, I want people to go out and vote. I know it sounds like a bit Machiavellian,
Yeah.
but I want people to fear Trump coming in because
Yeah.
him getting in is going to be bloody awful. And I think that
And
if we go, oh no, do you know what? Don't be silly. He's got no chance of winning. I think that just encourages people to just stay at home because they're like, and the last thing we need right now is for people to get sort of
and
apathetic.
that's what like especially in my voting area, we talk about that, the things that we're going to lose, like we've already lost because of Trump, and then we're going to
Yeah,
lose again.
yeah,
And those are discussions. And you can talk to people, you can talk to Republicans on a human level. There are some out there, especially in
and some
Orange County.
sane Republicans.
It's weird. Orange County is that there are actual Republicans that are humans. And when you talk to them as humans and you say things like, well, so, they're concerned about homelessness, they're concerned about the drug rehab and what happens there. And you can actually talk to them and say, hey, look, we already have a bunch of these things that we're doing for it. We just need more and we need the support. So it is sort of like, well, if you support this person, if you support the Democrat, you should continue to support the Democrats because the Republicans are not doing it. One Republican on our city council hates it
Yeah.
because he can't get his stupid agenda through because we're all Democrats and we're all getting things done.
Oh,
We're
stop it.
getting
Stop
things
getting
done.
done. God damn it.
I
They should
just
have a
feel so
high speed
happy.
rail line between LA and
God
San
damn
Francisco or
it.
something.
Someday soon
We've got a
we'll
super
have.
chat coming, but before we mention the super chat, David Lewis, he's bought a copy of my book. Thank you, David. Woo! Man of the World by Graham Hughes.
I
Available for
have it
more.
on audio and I really suggest it because I really enjoyed it on audio. It's just
It is quite
it
fun.
is hilarious. I loved it and I can't wait for the other
Oh,
ones to
thank
come
you.
out. I
Your
love
check's in
it.
the post. Ivan, thank you very much for the super chat, mate. And Ivan's asking, what are the predictions for turnout? I mean, it's pretty low in states where they know who's going to win because I think a lot of people just can't be bothered. What's the point if you're in a deep red state or a deep blue state? But what is it in America? It's about 60% overall, is it?
Yeah, we're not great.
We had
We
60% in
never
our
ha
last election.
we never have been. Um, I think turnout is a strange question for us because we have places that are denying people the opportunity to vote. And so you can have people who are supposed to be voting and then not vote. By the way, all my Americans who are voting, you have the right to vote. If you are a citizen, um, there are you need to look up how. I talked about this many times. Have a plan. Go look that up. I have my ballot.
Yeah.
I track my ballot throughout the whole process. And then if you need to reconcile anything after you vote, you need to make sure that you do that as soon as possible. You get I think it's like 2 weeks or something, depending on your state. There are states that are denying people voting. They're cutting people off at the voting rolls. They're denying identific types of identification.
Yeah.
Um,
So
they
do you think
are
that turnout's going to be suppressed this time?
I
Because,
think it's going to be suppressed. I think
all
it's going to be
right.
more suppressed than it has been. So we've got to vote in the highest numbers we possibly can. And we
Yeah.
need to know our rights and you need to know your rights. And as soon as your rights are oppressed, you need to go, I think it's the ACL, yeah, the ACLU. Um, they're the civil liberties. You need to tell them you need
But
to
if the it,
broadcast, take picture if you do ballot like if you fill out a ballot, take a picture of that. If you do not have a paper copy, um, it can be suppressed.
and also, but they're going to be overwhelmed, aren't they? Because there's going to be tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of people who are somehow stopped from voting because Trump has put his own people in the polling stations, hasn't he? He's put his
Yes.
own people in to legally challenge people as they come in, whether they can actually vote or not. So my suggestion for this is please turn up wearing a Make America Great Again hat. Then they won't think that you're going to, vote for Kamala and then vote for Kamala. Emma Price is making a good point here, actually. They're skewing the polls. It's so he can say he won. The poll said this, and I lost it. It couldn't happen. That's a very good
It's
point,
for
Emma, and thanks for the
himself.
super chance.
It's for himself. He loves he loves love be people loving him.
Mm,
That's what the rallies are all for. He
yeah.
doesn't do interviews, or his interviews are some of the worst things, because that's not who he wants to speak to. He doesn't want to speak to a normal audience. He wants to speak to his supporters. He wants their money, he wants their love, he wants them to buy his stupid shoes. He wants them to buy his stupid Bibles.
And his watches. He's got his gold watches for
Oh God.
$100,000, which
And they're
may or
so
may not be a watch. That's the best thing about it. You sign up for it,
tacky.
it might not actually work. I'll tell you a funny story before I do this. We've got another super chat come in. In the UK, the Tory party just did a one of those adverts they put out, like an attack ad against Labour. And it was about the fact that they're pulling the winter fuel allowance, which is an extra £300 that everyone who was a pensioner got, no matter how rich you were. And as 1 in 5 or even maybe 1 in 4 pensioners are millionaires, it seemed a bit daft to be giving them this extra money
Yeah.
at a time when the cost of living in this country has gone through the roof. Anyway, so the guy they had on the ad complaining about the fact that he wasn't getting this money was literally wearing a £17,000 Rolex. And it was just picked up
Oh,
like that. And obviously it's all over social media. It's like, what the
yeah.
hell? He's exactly the person who doesn't need this winter fuel allowance. So they're keeping it for the people who need it. And
Yeah.
whether, the level that people can get it is too high or too low, whatever we can argue about. But I don't think it should be going to millionaires. You've got £1 million. No, you should not be getting 300 quid off the government when there's children who are going hungry in this country. Puninator, thank you very much for the super chat. It's very kind of you. £10 super chat. Yeah, go Puninator. What do you make of the third failed attempt on Trump? I don't think it was, because they let the guy go. The guy on Saturday being stopped at a checkpoint for all the country's gun love, I gotta say, I'm a little disappointed the skill on display. Well, they like putting the guns up on the wall. I don't know if they particularly
Yeah.
decent shots with them. George, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. How is election rigging legal in the US? So we'll come to George second, but just to go back to Puninator's point, I think that was just a lunatic. He was a registered Republican.
Yeah.
They just said he was just a nutter. He was just a local nutter who's got loads of guns and lots of passports, and he's probably got a nuclear war bunker in his back garden with all
Uh,
like stockpiles of ammo. What are they called? The Doomsdayists or something.
Doom preppers. The
Doom
preppers.
preppers. Yeah, he's probably a doom
The
prepper.
the prepper that has all their guns all down in their little bunker
But the thing is, if
with
Trump
their cans.
got out of politics, he wouldn't have to worry, but he's going to have to worry for the rest of his life that someone's going to try and take him out, because he stirred up all the crazies. And all these people, like the 2 people who tried to have a pop at him, they've voted for him in the past, or at least
Yeah.
the registered Republicans in the past. And it's like you dance with the devil. The devil's just going to kill you because it's the devil. And George, going back to what George said, how is election rigging legal in the US? Because the Supreme Court decides what's legal in the US,
It's
and they
so
have
messed
decided
up.
that you can do whatever you like. They decided a few years ago, the Citizens United judgment said you can give any money you want. Any company can give as much money as they want to candidates.
Yeah. Which
Uh,
is a form of lobbying, which is
yeah,
legal.
yeah,
Lobbying is legal. It's what happens is that you get enough people together and you say, look, we're going to fix the country for us, the wealthy, the well-educated, the Christian, right? And so what they do is they pay a lot of people to get really, really educated, to get really, really good jobs, and then they end up at the Supreme Court. They end up at the lower courts.
Yeah.
They end up in governors and offices. Like they end up uh taking control of who can vote,
Yep.
when they can vote, closing DMVs so that you can't get your ID or licenses or passports. Actually going through and purging voter rolls so then they can make up whatever reason that they want
And
to.
then it's up to the voter to notice that they've been purged from the roll. This is a
And if
huge
you've
thing in
been voting
America.
for 20 years
Yeah.
and all of a sudden you go up and you say, can I vote? And they say, no, you can't because you're not on the list. Like you didn't know that
Yeah. They take people off
because
without telling them. So you got to
you had,
proactively check that you're still on the roll.
yeah, I mean, that's why a lot of like there are sites specifically to check your registration status. Which I checked for an entire year. I know in California, but you never know. I have a really good registrar of voters in Orange County, and
Yeah.
he's very, very good, and he makes sure that everybody's registered.
Not a Republican then.
It's a nonpartisan.
Yeah, but
We have a
not a
lot of
Republican then.
nonpartisan. Probably a Republican in Orange
I
County,
mean,
but
the fact that Trump has done this, he has put a lot of judges in across
yeah,
America at the federal level, at the state level. That's why when he was the case was brought against him for the document scandal, when he stole a load of secret documents from the U.S. government and hid them in his loo in Mar-a-Lago in Florida, the judge who was picked, Eileen Cannon, and it's like a rotating thing, so it's just whoever's free next gets the case, was a Trump appointee, and she did absolutely everything in her power to delay the case, and then dismissed it for the most ridiculous reason imaginable, which was that Jack Smith, she said, no, he needed to be he needed to be a lawyer working for the government before they brought him in as an outside lawyer, because this whole thing about having like a special counsel like Jack Smith come in, this is precedent back to the 1970s when the whole administration around Nixon was corrupt, and they didn't want someone who was involved in that bringing the prosecution to Nixon.
yes,
Not that it went ahead, because it got kiboshed by his vice president when he became president, but like that whole process was put in place for this very reason, because they wanted it to be an apolitical post essentially. And then Eileen Cannon says, oh no, because he's not already working for the government, that he can't be the special,
because he wasn't in the Department of Justice kind of thing.
And everyone else was like, what? He was, because he wasn't in the oh my God.
That's the whole point of bringing him in, because you needed somebody who had
Trump
an outside
scratched
view.
her back. He gave her the job, and she scratched his. And there's thousands, and I don't say that lightly. There are thousands of judges around the U.S. that Trump put in place.
Yeah, and when Biden was going to put his judges in, it was blocked. McConnell blocked him.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of positions open.
Yeah.
And thus the Trump appointed ones were all in charge of that. So it's these kind of things that we would assume is kind of like politics as usual kind of thing. You put judges in, you get your appointments, the president appoints somebody, Senate confirms it. That's usually a normal thing. Like we're supposed to do that. But what McConnell really was McConnell is the reason why Trump was able to do every single thing that he was able to do, which led us to Roe v. Wade being overturned, which led us to affirmative action being overruled. Which has screwed our higher education, by the way.
But I mean, there were things that I think that the Democrats should have done. And I if Trump, heaven forfend, if he does win this, I blame the Democrats almost as much as I blame Trump and his lies and his corruption and everything. Because they had 2 years in which they were in control of the Senate and the House of Representatives. And I know that you had Joe Manchin, who was this supposed Democrat who's now an independent, but and he was very difficult to get on side. And there was a woman from Arizona as well, wasn't there? She was a pain in the
Kristen
arse.
Sinema.
Yeah, and
She flipped. She completely flipped.
and yeah, so I understand their difficulties, but there were things that they could have done. The big one would have been to get rid of the filibuster in the Senate,
And that's
and they
the
didn't.
big thing.
They didn't.
And
They could have brought Puerto Rico and Washington D.C. in as states, like just fast as possible. Let's get this to a point where they can be brought in as states because they're going to vote for you.
And that's a major criticism that I have, is that the
Should I
Senate
explain
was
the
unable.
filibuster? Should I explain the filibuster? So
Yes.
in the Senate, now the filibuster, they got rid of it in the House of Representatives. They did have it there, but they got rid of it about 100 years ago because it was ridiculous and nothing was getting done. But they still have it in the Senate, and the rule was if you stood up and just kept on talking, you could talk so long that the time for the debate, allocated for the debate, ran out and no one could vote because there wasn't enough time to vote. It was called a filibuster, and sometimes it could go on for days. Well, maybe not days, but 24 hours, someone would stand up and just keep talking. And as long as they didn't sit down, as long as they didn't pass out, I guess they pissed in a bag. I don't know what happened, but then they decided, listen, instead of have someone stand up for that long, and don't forget most of the Republican lawmakers are really old, so it was really hard for them to do. They said, we'll make it so that we have to have a super majority of 60, and that's not a technical super majority, but a majority of 60 senators to have to agree to not filibuster, essentially. So we'll have this virtual filibuster, but it also means that nothing gets debated.
Yeah.
Because the Republicans just block everything. They've always got more than 40 members in there. They might not be in power. They might not be in control of the Senate. Not in control of the Senate at the moment, technically. But, they can just block everything. So the House of Representatives comes up with this bill that has taken months, maybe years, to get to the Senate. And the Senate goes, can't be bothered with this.
Right. And that's one of the ways that, like, the Republican Party is kind of criticizing Biden, that he's not getting anything done. And it's like, well, you're not letting him.
Yeah.
We had even the most conservative border security bill, basically, like silver platter to the Republicans, saying, you can vote on this. They didn't vote for because
Trump told them not to because he wanted something to run on.
Because he believes his supporters are so dumb that they won't understand it.
Is he wrong? Is he wrong?
I mean, I don't. Yeah, you're right.
Hashtag just saying. Who was it saying? How is this democracy? I'm sorry, I read it, but I didn't note the. Oh, there you go, Maggie. How is any of this democracy? I really don't understand. Well, Maggie, it's a form of democracy. There are shitloads of different democracies around the world. Some of them are presidential, some of them are monarchical, some of them are parliamentary, some of them are unicameral, bicameral, some of them are led by referendums, like they have in Switzerland, I guess. And yeah, there's loads of different systems. I don't think the American system is a particularly good one. I don't think the British system is particularly great either, but I still prefer the British system to the American one. It's like the checks and balances I feel are a little bit stronger in the UK. You might find it surprising, people in the UK me saying that, going, what are you on about, Graham? But bear in mind that we got rid of Maggie Thatcher without an election. We got rid of Boris Johnson without an election. We didn't have an election, we just got rid of him. We got rid of Liz Truss. She was in there for 2 weeks, she was crap, and they got rid of her. If someone turns out to be crap and they're a president or they're a senator or they're a member of the House of Representatives, it is so hard to get rid of them. It is insanely difficult to get them out. And now the Supreme Court has decided that if you're the president, you're above the law.
You can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and get away with it.
I think Biden should do that. And I've got a good idea who he can shoot.
He has access to military, paramilitary.
Yes, he's got
Secret
access
Service,
to SEAL Team 5, whatever that is.
He's got guard, Coast Guards and all that stuff. Yeah, he can deploy them if he so thinks that would be an improvement in the country. If it's benefits, if it's a public action, he could do that.
Serendipity Journey points out quite rightly, what amazes me is how many people still believe the US is the land of the free. Never has your freedom been more limited or in peril. Well, since the end of slavery, I'd say. But yeah, it's just watching from the sidelines, watching from across the pond, we're just kind of gobsmacked because this is the whole freedom thing is the raison d'etre of the USA. It's supposed to be this place where the misfits and the unwanted and the great unwashed from all over the world, they go to America to seek a new life and to make a fortune for themselves. That's the American dream. And now it's like there's the ladder kickers who are like, well, I'm here, I'm doing all right, and I'm going to vote for Trump even though I'm Mexican. And you're like, okay,
right?
I get that they're not all just one big voting block. I understand that, and it's insulting to think that they are. But Trump's been really horrible about Mexicans. He's been really horrible about women. He's been really horrible about black people, and yet some of those groups are going to vote for him.
He's LGBTQ plus people.
Yeah.
He does not like you. You are antithetical to what he is. He does not like Jews.
I know someone who's gay.
He does not like Muslims.
Yeah.
He doesn't like anybody but white Christians.
A Jewish Trump fan. The Trump who said that the neo-Nazis in Charlottesville were good folks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He liked him because they dressed like him.
What was the chant they were singing? The Jews will not replace us. Oh, okay.
Jews will not replace us. Yes.
And the Jewish person looks at that and goes, "Yeah, that's the side I want to be on."
That's good. Yeah,
we'll do them in charge.
Yeah,
they'll do a good job of whatever it is to be. But can we go back to the polls? One of the things that I'm quite shocked about is there have been a couple of October surprises. It's been a few actually, hurricanes. Also, this Bob Woodward book that's come out saying that Trump gave, testing stations, testing kits to Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
Oh, and Vladimir Putin's people have said, yeah, he did. They just backed it up. They just went, yeah. That
before
happened.
Americans, by the way. Like, he did not care about Americans.
Yeah. But also, the economy's doing really well at the moment, isn't it? I mean, I know things have got expensive in the last few years because of COVID and everything, but isn't it doing all right? Like, haven't they just added another 400,000 jobs in the last month?
Yeah.
I mean, that's phenomenal.
Biden himself has improved just the job numbers faster than any president has ever done, even after the Great Depression, after the recession, better than Obama did. So there's nothing to complain about there.
Yeah.
The only thing to complain about is that we can't do anything about price gouging.
Yeah.
And we can't do anything about the inflation when it comes to that. And Trump's tax cuts have caused more and more income inequality.
Yes.
If you stay tuned to the BIM podcast, Mikey and I did a Filthy Americans about this wealth inequality in the United States specifically.
It's off the charts, isn't it? Like, haven't the billionaires doubled all their money in the last few years? Like, it's doubled.
Incredible how it, like, while all of us were losing our jobs, we're out of school, we're having to make sacrifices, trying to find toilet paper, the wealthy were getting wealthier.
Yeah, a lot wealthier.
Yeah.
And they all want Trump. I mean, most of them want Trump to win because it's good for them. It's good for
They're going to get another
balances.
tax cut.
They'll get another tax cut. That means
because
more
the
money.
Tax cuts, the Trump tax cuts are going to elapse soon, and then he's going to have to re-up them. And he's only going to make it worse.
Yeah.
So it's not even a question of whether or not it's going to come back. It's just going to come back worse. And so the wealth inequality is going to be so great that people will be starving. And then guess what happens? The people with the guns are just going to start shooting the people that don't have the guns, because then the resources get given.
Well, I think the people with the guns are going to start shooting each other in their own houses first. Owning a gun makes you 7 times more likely to be killed with a gun.
Yeah, I still don't understand how women can be okay with this. Women are more likely to be killed by their domestic partner
Yep, with a gun.
with a gun,
With a gun.
or some other weapon.
Also, if they're children,
Children.
Get hold of them. Not only do a lot of children die in accidents where kids have picked up a gun, and there's lots and lots of kids, teenagers, who find the gun at home and they use it to take their own lives. And that's 100% effective pretty much most of the time. Like,
yeah.
It's not something where you can sit on the ledge and be talked down. It's not something where you can have your stomach pumped. It's not something, there's no chance of coming back from that.
There's not a chance.
And if you put
hurts.
the murders, the accidents, and the suicides together, that's more dead Americans than are killed on the roads each year.
Yeah.
And America has some of the worst drivers in the world. They have the most drunk drivers in the world, the most number of speeding drivers, the most, have a look at the charts on any kind of drive. And I've been in some countries where there are no road rules. It is just, there's no side of the road. You just drive where there's a bit of space. But because the roads are so bad, you can't really get up the speed that you need to do serious damage to someone. Whereas in America, those roads are very flat and they're very straight.
We have cyber trucks.
Oh, you have cyber trucks, yes.
We have cyber trucks, and I think the 7th one has now been recalled so far. So we're on a good path for the cyber trucks. You mean they've
recalled them 7 times? They've had 7 recalls?
No, they've I think in the state of California, I think they've now recalled the 7th due to specifically navigation, I believe. Was it? I don't know. I glance over it. You know how much
in this country.
You know how much I love Cybertrucks? Not a penny. Not a penny. I hate them so much. And I see you want to talk about some people they see Cybertrucks oh, I saw a Cybertruck today. I see 10 every day because of this place, Newport Beach. Because that's where they have all the money. That's why Trump comes and
Not all
gets
the money, too much money. Clearly,
way too much money. They spend way too much, and then they get these Cybertrucks, and they're everywhere, and I hate them.
Yeah.
They're ugly as sin. Okay.
Jennifer wants to know if Trump doesn't win in November, how is he supposed to pardon himself and not be held accountable or put on trial for trying to illegally overturn the results of an election?
I'm not worried about that when it comes to Trump losing. There are far worse things that are going to happen. Yeah, I mean, obviously he's going to kick and scream. That's unfair, and then he's going to try to get through the courts and have the courts appoint him. That's is way more concerning than whether or not he's going to pardon himself. Because technically, right now he's not federal. He's not under federal criminal charges. He's not been He hasn't been convicted of federal crime.
And you can only pardon yourself for federal crimes.
For federal crimes, the governors can pardon you for state crimes.
Yeah.
But his only state crime right now that he got convicted for is in New York, and New York's not going to touch him because they don't like him. That's why he doesn't go there anymore. I'm thinking I'm so close to reading Melania's book because I think there's damning things. I
might read some
if she files for divorce, now, he's done. She could bring him down. We talked about this.
I don't think she could. I don't think there's anything that can bring him down. I really don't.
It's just
everything that happens, you're like, okay, this will be it. This will be the one. This will be the one.
Oh,
and then his fans just go, oh no, they'll make excuses for him, as they always do. I mean,
the goalpost keeps being moved.
Oh yeah. It's. I don't accept that kind of behavior from anyone, even if I like them, even if they're someone I've respected in the past. If it turns out they've done something horrible, I'm like, well, no, go, drop them like a hot stone. Why would I defend them? I don't know them. I don't owe them anything. Even if I knew them, I wouldn't defend them. I'd be like, no, they did something wrong and they should go to jail for it. Or, they should be punished in some way. And they shouldn't just be given loads of money and told to go and live in a big penthouse or at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, which is where Trump might
Definitely
end up.
not.
That's the address of the White House, by the way.
It's no longer gonna be the White House. He's gonna paint it gold or some horrible thing like that.
Gaudy, tacky shite like his golden toilet. Jesus Christ.
Or that really creepy red Christmas that Melania did, where all the trees were red and it looked like it was a horror movie. That's gonna just be the White House. It's just gonna be a horror movie.
I kind of want Kamala to say to Trump, I've got something you will never have. And he'll be like, oh, what? I'm a billionaire. I can afford anything. Taste.
Oh, that will get him. That will get him.
Did you hear what he said about Kamala looking like his wife? And he was going about how good looking she was on the front cover of Time magazine. Did you see that clip?
No.
It was really cringy. Like suddenly he went, Kamala, I have to say she's quite a beautiful woman. And he started going on about how good looking she is. And it was a bit like, oh God, he's horrible. He's just, he's so ick.
I don't understand it.
These
guys are weird. They're just weird.
But yeah. Okay, well listen, thank you very much. I think we're going to leave it at that because we are over the 1 hour mark, Brenna. But thank you so much for joining us. I think we've just got one more of this with me and you in a couple of weeks' time before the election, which is going to be on
the election
November
coming
the 5th.
Up.
What's your plans? Are you doing a BIM podcast or something throughout the night? What are you going to do?
I don't know. I have to work on that day. And then I because I volunteer with my Democratic Party and council and all that stuff. So I'm working for I'm gonna look for those opportunities as well as partying. But
yeah.
I'm trying to plan on taking the next day off because I want to enjoy or dismay.
Or dismay. I'm just remembering last time Trump got in, and I was really upset. I drank too much that night. I was in town. I was living in Panama, and the next day I remember going back to my island, and I was on my own, and I think it was like the day after that. So that would have been the Tuesday, the Wednesday, and then the Thursday Leonard Cohen died. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, fuck this shit. I just like absolutely smashed my stuff up, which is never a good idea because it's your stuff and you have to replace it. I don't have any insurance on my island. So yeah, but it was kind of like cathartic, I guess, in a way. But I was just... But I don't want to do that again. I don't want to. I don't want to go.
It's going to get worse. It's only going to get worse if he gets in. So his first 4 years were very benign considering to what's going to happen.
Oh, because they're ready for it this time. They weren't ready for it last time.
They have the list. They have the.
Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about Project 2025 next time.
That might be a good idea.
Yeah, but yeah, if on the night, if you could grab your phone at some point and just come on the show, because I'm going to be doing an all-night podcast, so
absolutely
we could do this, and you could just be like, "Yeah, I'm at a party with a bunch of Democrats, and we're all partying because Kamala's won."
Yes,
you're not going to know though. We're not going to know for weeks. It's going to be
really close. It's going to be a while.
It's ages to count all the votes, so.
What it's going to be good is it's going to be a good way to sort of all that work that we did, all that work that we're doing, because there is a lot of organization. We all need to come together and we all just need to celebrate each other and what our accomplishments are, because regardless of what the outcome is, we all did it together and we all were focused. So, I can't speak for the rest of the country, but I can just at least speak for us. We have worked together and we are focused and we care. Brilliant. And that's what's important.
Yes. Well, together we're stronger. There's more that unites us than divides us.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, anyway, thanks, Brenna, and thanks to everyone in the chat. Thank you for keeping it lively in there. Someone wants to know how I've got an island. I won it in a game show.
Yep.
Back when I was allowed to go to America and participate in game shows. And tomorrow morning, Phil is going to be doing Morning Brew again, as he did today, because I am in London at the moment, at my friend's house. That's why slightly different background. Yep. But I'm going to be getting my US visa, so wish me luck on that. Well, I'm going to be trying to get my US visa. Whether I actually get it or not is another matter. Who knows? But yeah, if I do get it, great. I'll try and pop over to see you guys in America at some point in the near future. if Trump doesn't get in.
Yes.
So anyway, thanks for the chat. Thanks for the super chats. We'll be back at 9:30 in the morning for Morning Brew with Phil. And until then, I'll say thanks for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.